yes, we followed your message, we followed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Quran, and we have achieved everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expected us to do. All right, dear brothers and sisters, so moving along further, inshallah. Today, before I go there, just want to start with quick reflection of the juz number 14, inshallah. So yesterday, we have gone through juz number 14. And in juz number 14, we have discussed Surah Hijr, Surah Nahl. And we learned that Allah is the Hafizun of Quran, that Allah takes care of the Quran, and He will make sure that it stays mahfuz and protected, inshallah. Shaitan and his attempts are continuously on us, and we know we are weak and we get into the trap of Shaitan all the time. We need to make sure that we stay strong and we don't fall into the trap of Shaitan. So this is very important, that we do not fall into the trap of Shaitan at any given time. Allah's blessing upon us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained all the blessings in the detail in yesterday's session we learned. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining and telling us that go with the logic, because logic is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explained things with. And He wants us to go with the logic and the hikmah as well, inshallah. He says, go with the logic. For all the matters, think how you can do the things better. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining you with the logics, then you should be doing what? Tashakkarun. You have to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know the fact that prophets delivered the message, and now prophets will say that yes, we delivered the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now it's up to us that if we will follow the message or we will not follow the message. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Juz 14 we learned yesterday that we have to fulfill our promises, our oaths, our sworns that we do. We have to do that. One thing very important we learn is about the astaghfar, that if we are going to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, we will be forgiven, inshallah. So there are a few conditions need to be met. So let's make sure we do all the conditions and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, inshallah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of that juz talk to us about the logic of delivering the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to make sure that we follow it with the logic and the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by thinking the items that they make complete sense and people can understand that. There has to be wisdom. There have to be patience. We have to make sure that we deliver the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with patience and wisdom as well, and that logic as well, inshallah. Remember, we learned something yesterday, which is very important, and there was a kind of a homework for all of you. Inna Allaha ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i zil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar wal baghi ya'izukum la'allakum tadhakkarun, that we hear from pretty much all khutbahs, that this is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we do justice, we do hasan, good deeds, we're nice to our relatives, yanha 'anil fahsha, we do not get involved into the bad habits or bad deeds. Fahsha is especially the unlawful relationships with the man and women, mostly. That's where it starts with al-fahsha. Wal munkar, don't refuse. So this is something we learned yesterday. So that was a quick reflection of the juz number 14 that we have gone through yesterday. And let's move on to juz 15. It's very interesting, and a lot of knowledge and a lot of things we will learn here. Today's Friday, alhamdulillah, and we are going to talk about a few things quickly here. I'll come to those in a minute. But Juz 15 starts from Surah Bani Israel, and it's a 17th surah of the Quran, which is a Makkan surah, and it has 12 rukus and 111 verses. All right, so this is a quick introduction. And again, when it's Makkan surah, which means that it talks more of our belief and believing more and more in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and making sure that we are on the correct path before we can start practicing. This is most of the case in the Makkah surahs. And this surah talks about Isra. And if you don't remember or don't recall the word Isra, Isra is the word that's used for the travel of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Miraj, to go and meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in one night. Actually, for the worldly time, it was a fraction of a second. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went from Baitul Haram to Baitul Maqaddas, from the near sacred house to the far sacred house. That's how it's been mentioned in the Quran, with the near sacred house and the far sacred house. It talks about this surah is one of the surahs that is from Musabihat. And Musabihat is the term I wanted to introduce to all of you. Is Musabihat is basically drawn from tasbih. Tasbih is that praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one of the surahs that starts with the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one of the Musabihats in one of those surahs. This surah primarily focus on the message of prayer. And the prayer that especially I'm talking about is the 5 times prayer that we do every day. It stops us, it tells us, forbids us from adultery. Again, unlawful relationships. It stops and forbids us. This surah actually have those clear directions for us. The surah calls for respect for your father, for your mother. So this surah really talks about that you should be respectful to your parents, especially to your father, especially to your mother, and calls for patience and control in face of persecution the Muslim community that was facing at the time. So now we know a few very important things in our life that, again, remember we learned that Quran is all about hikmah, is all about wisdom. Quran is all about advice. Quran is all about telling us good things. Quran is all about us, for us, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when I recite these ayahs and stuff like this, and I really found that this is exactly true, that this surah going through the topics that I feel like these are my weaknesses. I know shaitan is strong. It tells us forbid adultery. It tells us calls for prayer. It tells us be nice to your parents, be in control, be patient. So everything that we learn in this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about what? About me and good deeds of me, making me a best human being, making me a best Muslim, making me a best of the best that can thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way, the worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best ways. So this is what Quran does, and this is what Quran is sent upon us for the same reason. And if we don't take that advantage, I think who will be more unlucky than us? So we have to take advantage of all these good messages of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to make sure we do that as much as we can. All right. As I mentioned that this surah have talk about the glory to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it says further that who did take his servant for a journey by night from the sacred mosque to the farthest sacred mosque, whose precincts we did bless, so that we might show him some of our signs, for he is the one who heareth and seeth all things. All right, so this translation is a little difficult one, so let me try to explain that in simple words, that glory is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He took his servant on a journey of a night from one sacred mosque, Makkah al-Haram, to another farthest mosque, Masjid al-Aqsa. And this is the place where that's been shown to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so he can see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he can see all the things, and he can witness them, and he can come back and can tell us with the more details. So this is again a beautiful message that we learned. This is probably the most amazing story that one can imagine in the history of prophethood, in the history of mankind, in the history of angels even. So this is an amazing, amazing story that in one night, one individual human being travels from Makkah to Masjid Aqsa, Palestine, and from there it goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and comes back. So this starts, the story starts from the Miraj, first portion of Miraj. And the first portion of the Miraj is traveling from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa. And as I said, that this is superbly mesmerizing story when you realize that how an angel came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how a burak, and if you don't know, burak was believed to be a horse with the wings, huge wide wings, white, kind of a color of an animal. Again, these are all the references came from different scholars. There's not exact reference for these items I'm saying, but if you can imagine the story. So Burak came, and Burak is super duper fast, maybe can cross the sound speed and sonar speed and all that very easily. So that animal or a bird or an angel, Burak, that was the traveling means of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for this night. So this is mesmerizing that how angel came, how Burak came, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ride on him and started traveling. And they reached to Masjid al-Aqsa. And then what happens? As I said, a story that is the story of that even amazed the prophets as well. So he led the prayer of prophets in Masjid al-Aqsa that gives us a message that now onward Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the leader of everyone, including the prophets. That's one of the school of thought that believes this message as well. And then there are more details of this story further down in Surah Al-Najm. Once we'll reach, inshallah, we'll talk about it. And inshallah, I'll collect some of the hadiths. I've been doing some research on this topic as well. There are a few hadiths around this topic. I'll talk to the rest of the second portion of this traveling after that how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the prayers, 50 prayers in a day were made obligatory on us, and how they come down to 5. So we'll discuss about these things, inshallah, once we'll reach to Surah Al-Najm, inshallah, if I will remember. I've been collecting and doing some research on hadith. I'll collect them all by that time, inshallah. Here's one thing I want to quickly mention before I can move to the next topic, is about Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl, if you don't know, one of the mushrik, one of the non-believers in Makkah and strongest opponent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The one is named Abu Jahl, means the father of ignorance, the father of illiterates. That's his name as. So this individual was one of the leaders and one of the uncles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was always against any Islamic actions and preachings. And he made a statement that our forefathers were on the wrong path. I'm going to follow their path, not your path of Prophet Muhammad. So this was a power of a fight of politics or whatever he was going through in his mind, but that's what he was. So Abu Jahl asked Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu that, hey, have you heard the story that someone traveled in one night from Haram to Baitul Muqaddas, and a lot more in that, but do you believe only in this portion? Abu Bakr Siddiq said, no, I cannot believe that. And then Abu Jahl added, saying, your Rasulullah Muhammad is saying that. And then Abu Bakr Siddiq radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu quickly responded, spontaneously responded, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that, then it must be true, nothing else. This is where the title of Siddiq, the truthful person, added to Abu Bakr's name. Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, Hazrat Abu Bakr radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu was just Abu Bakr before, and now he became Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq, which means that he testified and verified Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In ayah number 13, it talks about the book of actions in your neck. Whatever you do in this life, good deeds or bad deeds, there's a book that you cannot see. It's hanging right here in your neck. On the day of judgment, that book will be an open book. It will be open book. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us that open and read this book. You are accountable. You will do accountability of your own self today because you have everything in your hand now. So read and do it. If you are on Hidayah, you will get benefited. And if, God forbid, any of us was astray, we'll see the consequences. No one else can take your burden. You have to own your own burden. Your children cannot carry your burden. You cannot carry their burden. The parents cannot help children. Children cannot help parents. Friends cannot help friends. So this will be a situation where all of you, all of us will be responsible for our own actions and our own deeds. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from the difficulty and the pain of that time when we will not be able to answer those questions, or we will not be able to even read our own books or our actions, that what we have been doing or we have kept doing in our life in this world. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us all, inshallah. Ameen. Ayah 23 talks about the beauty, the beautiful way of the Quran, the way it explains your parental rights. It tells the children that your parents have extreme rights on you. Your Rabb orders you, your Allah orders you to worship only Allah. And right after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling in this ayah right here, is that do good to your parents always. And if you find your parents and you're alive and when they are old, in that time, in that age, make sure you don't even say oof to them. Oof is just one word of unhappiness, right? Just the smallest word probably you can imagine. Oof. Don't even say that to your parents if you found them in the old age or any time. Don't bully them. Don't be loud in front of them. Talk to them respectfully and be humble and kind to your parents. This is something a children have to do, and Allah orders us to do that. If we are parent, this is a message for our children. And if we are children, it's a message for us to our parents as well, that we have to respect our parents. Further, it says in the next ayah that pray for your parents and pray, oh Allah, please bless them as they were kind to me in my childhood. Waqul, and say, Rabbirhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. O Rabbul Alameen, oh my God, oh my Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please forgive my parents. Please bless my parents. Please be kind to my parents as they were kind to me and they blessed me when I was little. I was not able to move. I was not able to eat. I was not able to even change my clothes. I was not able to take care of myself from bad things. And my parents protected me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please protect them as well. So it's a dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directing us to recite for our parents. Ayah 26 talks about take care of the relatives. Subhanallah. So now look, it's a complete social structures Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you. It's a guidance for us, right? We talked about this earlier. Take care of your relatives. All right. Take care of the miskeens, the poor people. Take care of the travelers, those don't have enough means of traveling. And don't spend senselessly. Remember, before we have been hearing continuously in the Quran, spend wisely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spend wisely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, don't spend senselessly. Make a nice balance between spending and not spending. Ayah number 29 and onward, there are a few ahkam for us. And if I say ahkam, means a few orders. And these are very straightforward orders. There's no confusion or really complexity at all in them. It talks about that when you're spending, don't do bukhul, don't do hirs, but spend sensibly with the senses on line with you at the time. Bukhul means where you have to spend, you do not spend. That's a bukhul. Hirs, that you spend less and you seek more. And some cases you spend more and get less. That's also a hirs. That I want to get iPhone 18, whereas iPhone 11 will do the job just right. So this is a hirs, right? And then what we need to do is we need to make a nice balance in there. We need to make a nice balance. We should not cross the balance and limit. The second ahkam and the order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is don't kill your children for the fear of hunger. Do not do those things where you have to think that if more children will be here, how I will feed them. Feeding them is the responsibility of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He will do it. Further down says that no unlawful or sexual relationships, including adultery, are allowed. Completely forbidden. You cannot do that. You cannot make any relationships. Those are not okay. And this does include adultery. Next order for us is no killing for no reason. You cannot kill no one. There should be a reason and there should be a process and procedure. And qisas, remember we talked about qisas, is that if someone's relatives died, they can take something in return from them before they can forgive them. That's a qisas. And qisas should be in the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It should not be crossing those limits. Don't cheat orphans. Don't eat their mal or their money. Don't steal it. Don't steal the orphans because their parents are not around. Now you can cheat them. Don't get into the secrets of other people, and don't go after the secrets of other people. If someone is hiding something, be respectful. If you know someone's secret, keep deep in your heart. If you keep secret of others, Allah will keep secret of yours. So extraordinary efforts to go after someone's secrets is not allowed. That's been mentioned right here in the Quran, ayat 29 and after of the Surah Bani Israel. Don't walk with the ego. وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. Don't walk on the earth with like chest wide and like you are like owner of everything and you're arrogant, and be humble when you walk on the earth. Your shoulder should be a little bit down, bend it. If you don't know, learn how Rasulullah was walking on the earth. وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا. Don't do that this way. Don't do shirk. Make sure that you believe in one Allah and you follow one Allah, and that is constantly established rule in your heart. You cannot do this way that there could be two Allahs, or even if you say there's one Allah. We talk about this topic in detail at the time of Surah Baqarah, that sometimes we do negligently get into the shirk. There were a few types of, I think 5 types we discussed of shirk. So let's say we do not fall into any of those in our life before we get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And rizq is not dependent on if someone is superior or lower. Someone is high in the ranks, someone is low in the ranks. Rizq is not dependent on those criteria. It's Allah's will, and He gives to whoever He wants to. Allahu yarzuqu man yasha'u bighayri hisab. Wallahu khairun raziqin. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that can give the rizq. It's not depending on any criteria. It's completely Allah's will. Whoever He wants, He gives it. And rizq's definition, scholars explain, it's not the food that you eat. It's not just the food that you eat. It's all means of your life that you get, even clothing, even house, even cars, even anything you name it. These are all part of your life, your rizq as well. Ayah number 44 talks about the 7 skies and the earths, and everything in these are praising Allah, but you don't understand. Remember yesterday that we talked about that everything prostrate in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving more details, saying 7 skies and all the earths. It's a plural form being used. And everything in them are praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you understand or if you do not understand. And mostly you do not understand because we cannot understand the language of other animals or birds or how the tree is doing prostrate and stuff like that. But everything does praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that. So if everything is doing it, what should stop us doing it? We should do the same thing, inshallah. 45, ayah number 45 talks about refusers of akhirah, refusers of the day of the judgment, disbelievers, non-believers, cannot get benefit from the message of Quran, this book we're talking about, and their hearts and their brains to accept the truth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because there's so much in the darkness, there's so much involved in the dark side, and in dunya, in the small things. They cannot see the big wisdom in Quran, the big message in the Quran. They cannot see that, and their hearts and brains both cannot come towards that. It's clearly mentioned, hearts and brains. We'll talk inshallah about this one some other time. Due to lack of time, I cannot go in much detail, but heart also gets attracted and brain also gets attracted to something. So what's the differentiation? Inshallah, we'll touch some other time. It's a nice philosophy as well. Even after they listen to the fasih or baligh Quran, okay, fasih or baligh is what? Well explained, well written, well worded, well logically formed, structured communication is called fasih or baligh. So even they listen this fasih or baligh Quran, they say, Nauzubillah, prophets are under the magic. Nauzubillah. So they're not going to understand that. And don't get scared or worried about this. You worry about yourself, that you do the best, inshallah. In Ayah 78, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the 5 prayers, and it's not exactly 5 prayers with the words, but it's in the signs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about the benefits of Fajr prayer. Fajr prayer is the early morning prayer. That early morning prayer that is so much blessed. And after the Fajr prayer, if you open Quran and recite it, it has a lot more blessings. At that time, you learn really good because your mind is fresh at the time and you're very receptive of the learning at this point. It talks about Tahajjud. Tahajjud is a midnight prayer. It talks about the Muqam Mahmud for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Muqam Mahmud, for the people those do not know, is a place in the heavens, on the earth, is a place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's throne where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would stand and will do shifa'ah to all of us. And shifa is what? Muqam Mahmud means is the place where we can do shifa, where someone can do shifa. And that place is allocated to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which means that if Muslims will come, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be able to have mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on us. He will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that please forgive my ummah, please let them come to Jannah. And that will be happening on from Muqam Mahmud for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that one is in this Ayah 78 in the Surah Bani Israel. Ayah 81 to 82 and so on talks about that haqq, the truth came, and lie, the darkness removed, is finished. And Quran is the one that differentiates between the darkness and the light, truth and the lie. And then the blessings for Allah can be found in Quran, and those are the people of Iman. So people of Iman can find the blessings and shifa in Quran. So that's a message we also get in ayah number 78. So remember, if you are sick physically, mentally, from your heart, depression, anything, this life have a lot of surprises. This life have a lot of troubles. This life have a lot of challenges. This life have every day something new in front of us. We're hitting the wall maybe every day. But this book is telling us that this have a shifa and blessing for all of us, that we should not be disappointed. And the small things will go away ultimately, inshallah. Stay intact, stay hopeful, stay on Quran as much as we can, inshallah. Ayah number 85 talks about the Yahud. Yahud asked about the Ruh. Ruh is soul inside our body. And tell them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Ruh is Allah's order, it's Allah's wish. Only Allah knows that. And Rasulullah sallam, tell them, you just have a little knowledge of it, and it's okay, you can say that, and tell them this is true, because true is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls and manages and do everything that needs to be done with that. Ayah number 90 talks about the mushrikeen and their demands. And now we have been listening from Surah Baqarah and Surah Yusuf, Surah Yunus, and so on. We've been learning that they have been demanding and asking all these kind of crazy questions. What are those questions that they kept asking? And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving a few more examples of those questions. They say what? They say, why don't you, Rasulullah, get a water stream from earth in front of us in Makkah, in Saudi Arabia, where it's all desert? Why don't you just have the water coming out of as a stream from there? That's one thing they asked for. This is why don't you own the gardens of dates and grapes, and underneath them there are big wide canals of cold water? Why don't you own them? Become an owner of them. And then they says that bring the punishment that you tell us, or break the sky and let it fall on us. If you scared us with that, with the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let it happen. Bring that punishment to us. Ask Allah to break the sky on us. Let it fall on us. And then it says, bring Allah and his angels in front of us so that we can see them if you're truthful. Why don't you have a house of gold if you're Rasulullah, or if you're a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why don't you ride on the sky and send a book from there directly on us? Why don't you do that? Then we will believe you. If you do any of these or all of these, then we will believe you. And there is a reply from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in return to all these demands. It says that Rabb is pure from any defects and all that you're asking for. And Rasulullah sallam, tell them that I'm a human, I've been sent as a Rasul, I'm not a magician, and I'm not an illusionist. I'm not going to do any of these because I'm doing only what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered me to do. And that will happen ultimately. Ayah number 105 talks about the recite the Quran slowly, so that you can understand. That's the hikmah for sending it little by little as well. So when it came to Rasulullah in pieces and chunks, the reason and logic was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Rasulullah to read them properly and understand the message so he can convey the message. And that's the same thing for us. When we open the Quran, let's open it. Try to not to go towards the quantity. Let's try to go with the quality. Open it, read it, understand it, and move on, inshallah. So that will give us the more benefits. Mushrikeen object sometimes that you call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Allah, and sometimes you call as Rahman, and reply to them that either of the names belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they're attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Excuse me. It says, قُلْ ادْعُوا اللَّهَ أَوِ ادْعُوا الرَّحْمَنَ أَيَّامًا تَدْعُوا فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. So, Adullah or Awid ur Rahman. Should I call Allah or should I call Rahman? Ayyaman tad'u falahul asma'ul husna. Doesn't matter whatever I call them. They're both the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Asma'ul husna. Beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, time is flying and I have a lot more to cover. Let me try to be more precise in the next few minutes. This is where we end the Surah Bani Israel and we do enter in Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf is very important and been mentioned to us that every Friday we should recite this surah. And alhamdulillah, I'm very happy that we are covering this on the day of Friday as well, alhamdulillah. This surah is a surah Kahf, which means a cave, the cave. And it's about the people of cave, Ashabul Kahf, Ashabul Kahf. This is a story of the people of the cave. That's what the Surah Al-Kahf is all about. It's a Makkiyah surah. It talks about, it has about 12 rukus. It has 12 rukus and 110 ayahs in it. In ayah number 9, it talks about Ashabe Kahf, the people of Kahf, the people of cave. They were Saleh people. Okay, so Saleh means, remember we talked about it briefly? Saleh is the people those fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. And they're fearful and they don't cross the limit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're the Saleh people. And the Saleh were youngsters. They were not old. They were young people. And then it says that Allah gave them the right belief and the iman and the strength of the iman that they stood against their nation. And now the reference of the nation comes. Their nation was wrongful. Their nation was mushrik. And they were, the king was a wrongdoer and he was unjust. So these people stood in front of that nation and that king and told them that we are telling you the right message and we'll continue doing that. So nation became angry and enemy of these young people. These young people ran away and hide in a cave. This is where the cave, reference of the cave comes here. So this cave have a lot more background. I do not have enough time to touch the background of the cave, how these young people knew about the cave. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them asleep. And it's believed that they were there for about 309 days, 309 days or years, 309 years. 309 years they were there. Allah took care of their bodies very well. They were moved, body were left and right. There was sunshine coming and going. They were getting fed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if they were sleeping. And they had a dog that was sitting in the entrance of the cave. And that's what the one of the companion of those 7 people was the dog as well. They're believed to be 7 young people. People think that the scholars believe that there were 7 people, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the right count. So only Allah knows the right count, but we can guess because there were 2 or 3 different scenarios. Some people felt that there were 3, and some felt that maybe there were 5, and both the options were refused by Quran. And then they said 7. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have not rejected that option. So we're thinking that there were 7 probably, but Allah knows well how many there were, and it's not that important as well. If someone looked at them in the cave, if someone just walked in there by any chance, they see someone is sitting there, and for the person that comes in, he will see, oh, they're awake, and he will just go away and they will not bother them. But actually, they were sleeping for 309 years. So this is a story of Kahf, of Sahabe Kahf. This tells us a few messages that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give life and death and can maintain and manage all these kind of things so easily. It's not a big problem for him. In ayah 28, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam keep the fuqara ashab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Rasulullah to have the fuqara ashab near to you. Let them sit close to you. These are the people, those worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day and the night and wish Allah's happiness, and keep your eyes on them, you are Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? Because they deserve your attention. Maybe they're not well respected in the eyes of the people in the world because they are fuqara, they're not that rich, but they are on the right path. So you, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, pay them much attention and have them sit close to you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us amongst those people, those who were close to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this world and the hereafter. Ameen. And number 32 talks about the story of 2 people. One was rich and one was poor. And these 2 people were in the fight and they were in the arguments, and then one got killed, one stood alive. It's a long story. I'll skip quickly. Maybe we'll cover it some other time. Ayah 60 talks about Hazrat Musa alayhi salam with his slave Yusha bin Nun. They went to learn Allah's wisdom on the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam was believed to be very knowledgeable, very wise, very powerful. He was Kalimullah and other attributes with him. He was a Rasul, he was a Nabi. Still, he was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there are more knowledgeable people than you does exist. So it's a long story as well, but it's a very interesting story. So now they went, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam is one of his slaves, Yusha bin Nun. They went to find Allah's wisdom and the secrets. Those were known or been told to Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were told to follow a fish. At some point, the slave actually lost the track of the fish. And Musa alayhi salam said that we know that this wise person is at our destination, that is where 2 seas meet together. So they returned and found that special person of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who have the ilme ludni. Okay, what is ilme ludni? Ilme ludni is the knowledge of hidden or knowledge of secret that we cannot see from our eyes. And then we believe that the person that have the knowledge, ilme ludni, knowledge of hidden and knowledge of the secret, was who? Was Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam. He was one more prophet at the time there. Musa alayhi salam asked Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam to please teach me what Allah granted you from his wisdom, the secrets and the hidden knowledge, the ilme ludni. Please teach me as well. And again, I think it's worth mentioning here that Musa alayhi salam was a Nabi, was a Rasul, was a Kalimullah, was Afzalul Nabi as well. And even then, he was asking Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam to teach him. That tells us one message quickly. The message is we can seek knowledge from someone that may not be as great as you are. That can be a small person like me. I cannot be as respectful as you are, or as respected as you all are. but still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give us an ability to share and teach the knowledge from each other. So that was the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to give us in this specific portion, that this is what is very important, that we can learn the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from any of us, inshallah. So further moving on here, just want to quickly wrap up on this story. We can learn a little bit more in detail in the future, inshallah. But in this story, Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam finally accepted Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, that I will take you with me and I'll teach you what we have to, and I will show you a few things, but you stay quiet and be patient with me, don't question me. First, they were traveling on a boat. As soon as they left off of the boat, Khizr alayhi salam make a hole in the boat. In the second place, Khizr alayhi salam killed a little child. And each time Musa started asking questions. And the third time, what happened was there was a wall that was falling down, and the people of the town were like hating, and they were like trying to not get off that wall. Khizr alayhi salam built that wall. So all these three actions of Khizr alayhi salam and Musa alayhi salam question every time what you did, why you killed the people, why you killed, broke a boat, why you build a wall for no reason, no expense, no money against that, no ujrat for that, no salary for that, no payment for that, why you did that. And Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam responded each time that now our patience is over. You asked so many questions. And the third question is the done deal breaker. And now we're going to be separate. But I will explain you the boat. I make a hole in that. Even it was a new and beautiful boat of a poor person, I make a hole because king's people were coming and trying to get all the boats. Those don't have any problems in it. And this poor person was going to suffer. So I saved him from that. The young little boy that I killed was going to be a killer in the future when he will grow up. So I killed him so he cannot be a killer in his life down there. And when I built the wall, that wall belongs to orphans and their house, and underneath was some jewels or money or whatever that belong to their parents, and they hide it there for the orphans. When they will grow up, they will do it. And if the wall will fall down, the people of the town would have taken that money. So I did that for that reason. So this concludes us with the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have a wisdom and some hikmah and hidden secret in everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do that we cannot see or we cannot understand. Sometimes we do complain to all and everything in our life, but we do not understand the hikmah behind it. This is so unfortunate. So this is where the patience comes. This is where the belief on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes. This is where the trust on that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's the hikmah and wisdom comes, and his qudrat comes, that now we have to listen and obey and follow every action that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us and guiding us from whatever we are doing everyday business. So this is, I think, where we are now concluding our session today. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us one of those people, those understand Quran and learn Quran together. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get us all the good messages from Quran and apply on our lives and be a good Muslim and good follower of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we do understand the actual message of Miraj, and anything that was given to us during Miraj, we do follow. And we do believe in the prayers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all follow all the 5 prayers of a day, and we stay on that. Ameen, inshallah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us understand the wisdom and the hidayah in the Quran and get all the benefits and shifa for our hearts, from our body, from Quran, Ya Rabbul Alameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if we are children, we do respect, or we should respect our parents as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to do it. And if we are parents, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our children respect us as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want them to respect us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to make us a bukhul, or the person with the hairs. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us all the noble person. Those can be living their lives in the good balance. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to kill us, our children. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us safe from all unlawful sexual nature relations, including adultery. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please protect us all from that. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let us not do zulm to anyone. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to do injustice to anyone. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to get involved into someone else's business or their secret seeking business. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that as well. And if we do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our secret as well and keep us safe as well. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst the humble people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the risk that He promised. يَرْزُقُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ, that whoever He wants to give the risk, He gives a risk, a lot of that. Ya Rabbal Alameen, please grant us. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us shifa and health and keep us all protected and grant us all the blessings. And I ask only one dua all the times, and which is رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ وَقِنَا عَذَابَ الْقَبْرِ وَقِنَا عَذَابَ الْحَشْرِ وَقِنَا عَذَابَ الْمِيزَانِ. Or Allah Ta'ala, oh my Rabb, آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً, please grant us the best of the best in dunya, of dunya. وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً, and best of the akhirah, of the life hereafter, inshallah, as well. Grant us the best of the best as well. وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ, and save us from the hellfire. وَقِنَا عَذَابَ الْقَبْرِ, and keep us safe from the qabr azab and the punishment in the grave. Ya Rabbal Alameen, save us from that as well. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep us all safe from all kind of diseases those are going on nowadays, including coronavirus or anything else like that. With the same note, wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.